was the result of the Israeli interception. Further news coming in from the region. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry has summoned the Iranian ambassador following accusations that Tehran targeted its territory with strikes. The ministry condemned Iran's actions, describing them as brazen attacks against the kingdom and several other countries in the region. This escalation comes amid heightened tensions between Iran and Gulf nations, further intensifying the already volatile situation. Gedaliah joins us once again. What does this attack from the United States and Israel mean for the more broader Middle East region, bringing in those Gulf countries as well?
Well, I'll start off by saying I know we discussed international law, in which I completely just pushed away, but there's no discussion of the same people talking about international law when it comes to the Iranian regime just shooting in every single which way, which direction. But as your other guest did point out, which I agree with, is that the Iranian regime is completely leaderless. They have no intelligence. I think that there's most likely infighting because the leadership had driven them down this road off this cliff, and now there's no leadership right now. So they're trying to figure out which way to go, and I'm sure there's a lot of infighting. They're shooting in every which way. As I mentioned before, their justification is that there are U.S. bases in those different countries. Unfortunately, what they're doing is they're shooting at hotels. They're shooting in residential areas. They're indiscriminate, and I think that should be something that should be spoken about, the dangers of the Iranian regime. And this is exactly why we here in Israel, we do not see that there's any there's no off-ramp here except for complete surrender of the Iranian regime. They step down and they allow the people to come and to build a federal government, a democracy in which they are fighting for on the streets, in which they are dying for on the streets. And so with that being said, I think that this whole idea that the Iranian regime is shooting in every direction, it illustrates just exactly where they are, especially with them shooting at and sinking, I believe. I'm not sure if it's sunk yet, but I think that it did sink their own ship. They're just completely inept at this point. They're more dangerous than ever, and I think they need to be shut down.
There are of course concerns about the way at which the United States and Israel have gone about this operation. Leaving a power vacuum can be seen as a dangerous thing. Of course, Iran has a powerful military, a population of 90 million people, vast land. Are the people who do you have any concerns over the way in which the Americans and the Israelis have conducted this operation? Let's cite, for example, the Venezuela operation. Of course, Maduro was removed, but his government still very much is in operation. All those pillars are still there. Gedaliah, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think we're dealing with a much different situation because the Iranian regime's strength is not in their army, it's not in the IRGC, it's not in their technology, it's not in their ballistic missiles. Their strength was always the threat of their proxy armies, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. In fact, I just want to bring up a point which I find very interesting, is that right now the Iranian regime is facing an existential threat, and their own proxies in which they invested in for decades are sitting it out right now. Hezbollah, as far as I know, has not shot anything over into Israel. The Houthis also are staying out. Hamas, of course, has been pretty much inactive right now. They're pretty much trying to deal with their own police state in Gaza and trying to hold on to any power that they can. They're not interested in engaging with Israel anymore. And so what we're seeing right now with the Iranian regime is it's an opportunity to see their vulnerabilities as this paper tiger, because their proxies are no longer standing shoulder to shoulder with them. They're not answering their calls anymore. So I think at this point right now, the way that America and Israel are engaging with the Iranian regime is in line with exactly what the hundreds of thousands, millions of protesters on the ground have been calling for 40 years. They said, you're either with us or you're against us. And they said this to Obama, and they said this to Trump, and Trump said that he promises he's going to be there for them. And I think, and I hope that Trump is going to fulfill his promise and not use this opportunity to get back to the negotiating table in order to allow them give them a lifeline to continue to oppress their own people and to spread their Islamism throughout the world.
Gedaliah Blum, thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Great pleasure to talk to you as always, and thank you for taking the time. We have more breaking news coming in from this ever-developing situation. More reactions coming in from Iran itself. The Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian affirmed that Iran would persist in its military actions, stating that they will continue following in the footsteps of their supreme leader. He emphasized that Iran's armed forces would continue to strike hard and destroy enemy military bases. Pezeshkian also described the martyrdom of the revolutionary leader as the culmination of years of sacrifice, reaffirming the country's resolve in its ongoing conflict. Further updates coming your way. Israel's Defense Minister, Israel Katz, described the killing of Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, as a turning point in the ongoing war with the Islamic Republic. Katz emphasized Khamenei's leadership in orchestrating efforts against Israel, calling him the architect of the axis of evil surrounding the nation. He further highlighted Khamenei's uncompromising stance against Israel and stated that his elimination, along with other senior Iranian officials, marks a significant shift. Katz made these remarks during a security assessment with top military and security officials. Let's listen in.
אני חושב שהחיסול אתמול של הצורר היהודים הגדול ביותר של התקופה הזאת, חמינאי, הוא דבר מאוד משמעותי. הוא האיש שהוביל את מהלך ההשמדה מול מדינת ישראל, הוא בנה סביבנו את כל ציר הרשע, הוא באיראן עצמה הוביל קו בלתי מתפשר נגד מדינת ישראל, ולכן הסיכול שלו זו נקודת מפנה.
Shruti joins us once again to discuss this. Your thoughts on the Iranian president's statements there, Shruti. Of course, him reiterating that Iran will maintain its stance even despite the death of their supreme leader.
Well, because I do believe he is saying exactly what he believes. They had contingency plans already in place up to 3 levels of succession. So they know that this is not going to go away just because Khamenei is dead. So there is a power vacuum, definitely. But there's somebody who's going to step up and take over. I think Arafi has already taken over as an interim Ayatollah until and unless the assembly of experts kind of get together and find the new Ayatollah for Iran. It also shows that they do view his death very seriously. It might just be the last straw on the camel's back, and they will probably continue to do the things that they were blamed for up till now, but were never really actually doing. They were not attacking others directly, non-state actors, yes, but not directly. But now they're going to go after every one of them. I would like to address what your previous guest said, that their non-state actors are not acting. They are. The Houthis have promised to sink every single one of those ships in the from their zones. The Hezbollah of Iraq, I believe they're called Khatab Hezbollah, have promised to ensure that all the 2,500 American soldiers posted in Iraq shall pay for the death of Khamenei with their own blood. There has been a PMF movement that has started already attacking in parts of Syria, which was used as a place of convenience for this particular attack. So their non-state actors are doing their very best. Of course, they are reduced because Iran was reduced in terms of economy as well as strength. This shows that Iran is ready to take it to any level. They will not stop. Neither will the regime step down. This is not Venezuela, that you take out the head and then you say you're done. It doesn't work that way for Iran. Iran is an ideology-based system, and the ideology persists. As many number of people you saw dancing in the streets on the death of Khamenei, there are double the number weeping their hearts out today in Iran for the martyrdom of Khamenei. I do not support the Iranian regime or Khamenei, but I do know that those people are extremely nationalist and ideology driven. You can't take the ideology of the people. You can kill that head, but you cannot take that entire ideology out of the minds of the people.
Indeed. Shruti, thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Great pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for taking the time as always. We have further updates coming out of this situation. A vessel was struck by an unknown projectile 17 nautical miles northwest of Mina Sakt, located in the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah, the United Arab Emirates, according to the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations. The projectile caused a fire on board, which has since been extinguished despite the incident. The vessel plans to continue its voyage. The UK MTO provided no further details regarding the nature of the projectile or the vessel's condition following the attack, but confirmed the fire had been controlled.